My name is Alfred Reeder. I'm the MD of a company called PVM Nutritional Sciences in South Africa. The three letters in the name denotes proteins, vitamins, minerals. So we're in the health and nutritional industry and have been so for over 40 years. We specialize in not only nutritional supplements or nutritional interventions, but training as well of elite athletes. And in fact, Neil Duplessis, who's with me here for our stay in the US, he's our head sports scientist and actually in charge of the conditioning of the Toyota Cheetahs, one of the 5 major professional rugby franchises in South Africa. And we compete not only in our national championship, but also in what's called the Super 15 competition. So that includes competing against the 5 best New Zealand and 5 best Australian professional teams.
You know, what happens in the sports performance business is that people follow the trends of what is put out there. The trend of weightlifting has gone on for the last 30 years. You're talking about a system that was installed what doesn't have a lot of empirical proof that it works. So when a company comes along that has a research department that is solely dedicated to not only producing the best nutritional products available, but also is constantly investigating the best training principles around, that certainly gets your attention.
Well, the heart and soul of our business is based on scientific innovation. Our R&D department keeps constant check of what's going on in terms of health and nutrition, but also in the world of high performance. We originally came across Sports Science Lab when Troy Polamalu rehabbed here, and we became intrigued by the rehab modalities, which without any doubt was extremely successful. I mean, more recently, Will Blackman rehabbing here after his second ACL and complete reconstruction of the knee. I mean, post-op he was able to play after 8.5, 9 months. Now that's unheard of.
When I was approached by Alfred Reeder about having them come here to see what we're doing here, you know, obviously it was exciting for me because you've got a company that recognizes what I've been trying to say for the last 10 years is that there's a gaping hole in the world of sports performance in terms of the gains you can make. People have stopped thinking and they've stopped applying basic principles of anatomy to the training protocols. What we've tried to do here is really keep pushing the boundary of sports performance to its highest levels. You can't just address what the physical strength gains are. You have to address biomechanical angle, you have to address nutrition, and you have to address your training system. If you address all 3, then you have a significant chance of improvement with each particular athlete that you work with. I think that if anybody were going to sit down and honestly answer that question is, are what people doing in a weight room directly improving the play on the field? Because people know that you can make people bigger. People don't believe that you can improve athletic ability. And I think that this system proves that false completely.
Being in the industry for over 40 years, there's no doubt that the training and conditioning industry and the health and nutrition industry is littered with so-called magic formulas. We call them quick fixes. Now, they don't exist in nature. There's not a quick fix. So if you want to improve performance, you better work hard at it and you better work smart at it. And I think what is crucial for us also regarding whatever Sports Science Lab is doing is that there's a sound scientific base to everything that's done. And there's no doubt that that's the case. It's really unique, but again, it's not a magic bullet, it's not a magic formula, but there's definitely merits to what is being done here. We probably can improve a lot more than what we thought the past couple of years. So there's no doubt you can make a difference in terms of athletic performance.
Most athletes are a statistic of the system because the system is not set up for the success of the athlete. So what's been great about PVM is from that standpoint is they're extremely objective about what they're looking at with their own players and where they can improve. Because based on my experience here, this system does that. And so when you're able to hand it off to somebody that understands the science of this business better than anybody I've come across, then you got a real great chance for success.
Well, obviously what impressed me about Gavin is that he's not different for the sake of novelty or just for the sake of being different. It's rare that we find somebody that is open in this field. We're all stuck with fixed paradigms and fixed mental models in terms of the way we think. To be able to challenge some accepted norms or conventions, you better know your story and you better have your facts straight. And we were really impressed by not only his sound knowledge base, but obviously the ability to apply that knowledge in practice. There's always a big problem between theory and practice, and be able to bridge that gap is not easy. We have decided to open a sports science lab powered by PVM in South Africa, and that will be coming soon in 2012. And we really think we could make a difference on both amateur and elite or professional levels.
It's like when Neo walks in to see the Oracle and he sees all these different kids bending spoons and levitating, different things like that. It's very different than what the norm is out there. Just to do all these athletic lifts and then carry it out to the field. You can't tell somebody to go squat. go clean, go deadlift, go bench, and then be athletic. But here you can tell them to do all these crazy looking lifts. Say, look, you've already done these movements. Just go out and do it.
For NFL combine training, you take a college system that for 4 years has done the same thing. We have squatted them, we've bench pressed them, and we've power cleaned them. They have maxed that out. So wouldn't it logically make sense that if your career were on the line and you had 10 weeks to prepare, that you would definitely do something that was different, that could improve your speed, that could improve your vertical, that could improve your lateral movement, and potentially improve your draft status. When you look around the whole country and how it's being done and everybody just sticking to their guns that, oh, we've got to keep squatting them. Well, what, you're going to now, after 4 years, get this extra bit of improvement in another 8 weeks of doing the same thing again? Well, that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I expect different results. And to do that, you have to use different methods. What we attempt to do that's different is we are going to plyometrically strength train these people in a very short amount of time to see what drastic gains we can get in terms of improving their 40, improving their vertical, improving their lateral movement, and we will of course still address the 225 rep test. The first thing you've got to do is assess what's wrong with them. Most of these guys will come in injured, and you have to solve that quickly. The second thing is figuring out what muscle deficiencies they have, muscle imbalances they have that are limiting their power. Each muscle has to balance with the others in terms of strength, power, and flexibility. Because if it doesn't, you're going to have muscle tears, and you're certainly not going to maximize their performance ability. To improve somebody's 40 time, you essentially have to turn them into a track athlete very quickly. The start is the key to a successful 40. So understanding what your start position is, how you can best maximize your force coming out, because your first step alone should cover the first 1.5 yards, and now you're running a 38.5 yard dash, not a 40. It's all about being as efficient with the distance you're running in a shortest amount of time. The other side of the coin is how do you improve the power in a very short amount of time? Well, they've been weightlifting their whole career, so you're not going to just keep weightlifting and they get more power out of that. If a muscle is tightened down and shortened, then how can it possibly produce maximal force in a plyometric movement when it has to stretch out and explode very quickly? It can't. And even if it does, it's just going to explode out and tear. By using the throw-off mechanism, we teach the athlete to catch the weight and throw it very quickly with their legs. They are able to neurologically train their brain to start producing their force much quicker. You are teaching the athlete to produce the maximum amount of force in the shortest amount of time. By addressing the biomechanics of it, by improving their plyometric power, and also addressing their muscle balance, muscle symmetry, flexibility, and joint mobility, you have a chance to get improvements in an 8 to 10 week period. For the bench press test, the whole focus has got to be on increasing the number of repetitions. So to get anything up over 20, you really have to actually focus on the strength improvements in the eccentric loading. We will add pressure by pushing down on the weight mechanism on the supercap machine to force your eccentric strength to come up. I can add more pressure to that than you could ever possibly lift. There's a big difference between weight pressure and weight load. So if you were under 600 pounds of actual weight, your arms would just collapse. The minute you can feel the athlete not being able to sustain the pressure, you just release it, and there's no further risk of any type of injury. So we'll have them resist in 3 different positions isometrically, while they're also having to move it back and forth concentrically and eccentrically. And by focusing on moving the weight explosively, you're able to bring up their strength very quickly. Plyometric is a quick, explosive ability by definition. So what we do is an exercise called throw-offs, where the athlete actually has to throw 225 pounds up and off his chest repeatedly. That is much harder than just moving a bench back and forth at this rate of speed. By plyometrically strength training it, by training the eccentric abilities and its holding abilities, you can increase the endurance of the muscular apparatus in the chest pretty quickly. And you can expect to get about a 20% increase. If you look at a jumping movement specifically, jumping involves a very quick, explosive movement, and it's a combined between the feet, the ankle, the knee, the hip, and the alignment of the spine. And then it's the accelerating capacity of the arms to time itself properly with the feet. Now it's done in a difficult fashion for the combine because you're standing still. It doesn't allow you to use movement to help you energetically. So you'll need starting strength, accelerating strength, speed strength to all help you do that. But the most significant thing that's missed in trying to get a vertical jump higher is the fact that in a plyometric movement, the muscle has to stretch out very quickly. It has to be relaxed to be able to do that, not under heavy weight load like you're doing with a squat. The force changeover comes from the movement down and then back up. That's called an eccentric to concentric changeover. The person that can change it over the fastest is going to be your best athlete every time. And it applies to running, jumping, it won't matter.
That's it.
I felt it.
You gotta feel that. Talking about stuff.
It almost felt like I wasn't using energy.
The 5-10-5 test and the L-cone test I would lump into one category.
You want to come down, touch, and push. It becomes a spring load.
Improving somebody's change of direction means that you're going to have to improve their awareness in space on how they're moving their body. So if you combine the efficiency in terms of the number of steps they're allowed to do and you maximize that, you improve the balance capabilities, the strength capabilities of their feet, make sure that they're understanding the proper postural alignment they're going to need to be able to move quickly in a very short space, then you have a very realistic chance of dropping their time. By using the isokinetic machine that we have here, you're able to highly stimulate the central nervous system in a functional movement pattern. That's important because the movement pattern has to be exact in terms of how they're using it in their sport, running, jumping specifically. When I can put somebody on there without fear of injury, I have no worry about the amount of time I have, which is only about 8 weeks, to get this job done. We can get high reps done. We have no delayed onset muscle syndrome, so we don't lose training days like a conventional weight system does. We're able to get more work done in a shorter amount of time in a functional movement pattern that will directly affect their speed and their movement. The lateral movement abilities are what separate any NFL player. Everybody's pretty fast. The ability to change direction comes from the awareness and strength in your feet and in your hips and in your core stabilization ability. And if you can change those things, you can get improvement quickly in all of these tests. Most of the combine around the country, it becomes almost a factory of just come in here and then do a few more lifts, we'll do some sprints and do this, and then just show up in your pro day and hope it all works out. There's got to be a more professional attitude to it than that. And it certainly has to have a more scientific basis to the human body and how it works in sports, because it is not a squat. And a power clean is not going to solve your problems in terms of your vertical, your lateral movement, your movement abilities, or anything else in an 8-week period when you've already been doing it for 4 years.